Most fairy tales begin with "once upon a time." Josephine's tale began with silence. Not a vow, not a spell, just the cutting of her hair and the binding of her chest as she chose at 21 to become someone else entirely. For 7 months, she hid within the estate of Duke Raymond Hawthorne, an invisible stable boy by day, a silent shadow by night. To the servants, she was just another pair of hands. To the Duke, she was no one. She never meant to fall for him. Not when she was nothing more than the boy who steadied his horses. But love doesn't ask for permission. And her heart decided long ago that it belonged to a man who could never want her back. Because Josephine wasn't just a servant. She was a noble woman hidden in plain sight. And her disguise wasn't a whim. It was survival. To reveal herself would mean returning to the fate she fled. A brutal, arranged marriage she would rather die than accept. So perhaps this is not a romance at all, but something darker. A story of secrets and survival, of desire and deception, of a woman who gave up her identity not for love, but for freedom. The question is, how long can she keep hiding? And what happens when the Duke finally sees what's been right before him all along? Some girls are forced into marriage. Josephine Foster chose something far more dangerous. She vanished. The night her uncle Arthur Foster signed her away to an aging industrialist, she did not scream. She did not beg. She sat in her chamber, hands folded in her lap, listening to the heavy footsteps fade down the corridor. She listened to the clink of glasses below, to the low rumble of male laughter sealing her fate. And when silence finally fell over the estate, Josephine stood. She walked to the mirror, stared at the girl reflected there. Pale skin, dark eyes, hair that fell in soft waves past her shoulders. A girl bred for drawing rooms and garden parties. A girl meant to smile and curtsy and obey. A girl who would cease to exist by morning. She reached for the scissors. The first cut was hesitant. The second, deliberate. By the third, her hand no longer trembled. Dark locks fell to the floor like shed skin. She did not mourn them. She carved away everything that marked her as Josephine Foster, daughter of a ruined noble house, niece to a man who valued her only as currency. When she finished, a stranger stared back, sharp-featured, hollow-eyed, neither girl nor woman, or just a shadow that might pass for a boy in dim light. She bound her chest with strips torn from a petticoat. The compression hurt. She welcomed the pain. It reminded her that survival required sacrifice. She pulled on her late brother's old coat, the one her uncle had kept locked away like a relic. It hung loose on her frame, smelling faintly of dust and forgotten grief. Her brother Thomas had been dead 5 years. Fever took him at 14. Her father followed 6 months later, drowning his sorrow in drink until his heart gave out. Her mother had died birthing a stillborn son when Josephine was 8. All that remained of the Foster family was Josephine and her uncle Arthur. And Arthur had decided she was worth more sold than sheltered. She gathered what little she could carry, a few coins stolen from the kitchen jar, the bread wrapped in cloth, her brother's pocket watch, the only inheritance her uncle had not yet pawned. By the time the grandfather clock struck 3, Josephine Foster had slipped through the servants' entrance and disappeared into the November fog. By dawn, only Joseph remained. The road to Hawthorne Estate stretched long and cold. Josephine walked it with her head down, cap pulled low, every step taking her further from the life she had known. Her feet blistered, her stomach cramped with hunger. But she did not stop. She could not stop, because behind her lay a marriage bed she would rather die than enter. And ahead lay, she did not know, only that it had to be better than the alternative. Hawthorne estate rose from the mist like something out of a Gothic tale. Grey stone walls, narrow windows, towers that pierced the low clouds. It sprawled across the hillside, vast and imposing, surrounded by carefully manicured grounds that spoke of wealth beyond imagination. Duke Raymond Hawthorne owned it all. Josephine had heard the stories. Everyone had. The Duke was cold, ruthless, a man who inherited his title at 22 when his father died under suspicious circumstances. Some whispered poison. Others said the old Duke simply could not bear the disappointment of his son's callousness and willed himself to death. Raymond Hawthorne never married, though titled women threw themselves at his feet. He never smiled, though his wealth could buy any pleasure. He moved through society like winter itself, leaving frost in his wake. And Josephine, desperate and disguised, walked straight toward his domain. She found the servants' entrance at the back of the manor. At a heavy wooden door, worn smooth by decades of use. She knocked, once, twice. The door opened to reveal a weathered man in his 50s, grey-haired and stern-faced. "What do you want, boy?" Josephine kept her voice low, roughening it as she had practiced during the long walk. "Work, sir. Any work. I can muck stables, haul water, tend fires. I do not eat much, and I will not cause trouble." The man studied her with sharp eyes. Josephine forced herself to meet his gaze without flinching. Boys did not lower their eyes. Boys stood their ground. "What is your name?" "Joseph, sir. Joseph Whitehead." The lie came easily. A new name for a new life. "You have family, Joseph Whitehead." "No, sir. Orphaned. Been on my own these past years." The man grunted. "You look half-starved. When did you last eat?" "Yesterday, sir." Another grunt. The man stepped aside. "Come in, then. We always need hands in the stables. Work hard, keep your head down, and you will have a roof and meals. Cause trouble, and you will find yourself back on that road. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Thank you, sir. I am Francis, the estate steward. You answer to me, and through me, you answer to his grace." Francis said the title with weight, as though speaking of something divine and terrible. "You will not address the Duke unless spoken to. You will not linger in his presence. You will not look him directly in the eye. The Duke values privacy and order above all things." "Can you manage that?" Josephine nodded. Invisibility was exactly what she needed. "Good. Come. I will show you to the stables." The stables smelled of hay and horse and honest labor. Josephine breathed it in, letting the familiar scents ground her. She had spent time in her family's stables as a child, before her father's decline. She knew horses, knew how to gentle them, how to read their moods. Francis introduced her to Dennis, the head stable hand. Dennis was younger than Francis, perhaps 30, with sun-darkened skin and calloused hands. His eyes were kind, but cautious. "Another mouth to feed," Dennis said, but without malice. "You know horses, boy?" "Yes, sir." "Do not call me sir. I am just Dennis. Save the sir for those who demand it." He gestured toward the stalls. "You will start with mucking and feeding. If you prove yourself, I will teach you grooming and tack. His Grace has exacting standards for his horses. They are worth more than you or I will see in a lifetime. Treat them accordingly." Josephine nodded. "I understand." "Good. Or there is a cot in the back room. Straw mattress, but it is warm and dry. You will take your meals with the other hands in the kitchen. Do your work. Keep quiet. And you will do fine here." That first night, Josephine lay on the narrow cot, every muscle aching, and allowed herself a single moment of relief. She had survived the first day. She had a place to sleep, food in her belly, meagre as it was, and no one had looked at her and seen Josephine Foster. They saw only Joseph, a stable boy, invisible, safe. The days fell into rhythm. Wake before dawn, muck stalls, feed horses, haul water, groom flanks until they gleamed. Josephine worked with her head down and her mouth shut, just another shadow among shadows. She learned the names of the other servants. Edith, a housemaid with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, who sometimes brought extra bread to the stables. Millie, a scullery maid who hummed while she worked. Wallace, the groundskeeper who spoke more to plants than people. And she learned the unspoken rules. Do not go to the east wing after dark. The Duke walks there, and he values solitude. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not ask questions about His Grace's private affairs. Do not, under any circumstances, draw attention to yourself. Josephine followed every rule religiously. For 6 weeks, she did not see the Duke at all. Only heard his name spoken in hushed tones, heard the whispers about his coldness, his precision, his absolute authority over everything within his domain. And then, on a grey morning in late December, everything changed. Josephine was in the paddock, calming a mare that had spooked at a falling branch. The horse danced sideways, nostrils flaring, hooves striking the frozen ground. Josephine kept her voice low and steady, hands gentle on the lead. Easy, girl. Nothing to fear. Just the wind playing tricks. The mare settled, side still heaving but no longer panicked. Well handled. The voice came from behind her, low, controlled, utterly certain of its authority. Josephine turned slowly, and for the first time she saw Duke Raymond Hawthorne. He stood 10 paces away, tall and perfectly still. Dark hair, grey eyes that held no warmth, sharp-featured, with the kind of face that belonged in portraits. He wore riding clothes of impeccable cut, black coat fitted to broad shoulders, boots polished to a mirror shine. Everything about him spoke of precision, control, power. Josephine remembered Francis's warning, and do not look him directly in the eye. She dropped her gaze to his boots. Thank you, Your Grace, she said, voice low and rough. Silence stretched between them. Josephine could feel his gaze on her, heavy as a physical weight. She forced herself to remain still, to breathe evenly, to be nothing more than a stable boy who had calmed a horse. What is your name? Joseph, Your Grace. How long have you worked here, Joseph? 6 weeks, Your Grace. Another pause. Josephine's heart hammered against her ribs. She kept her eyes down. You have a gentle hand with the horses, the Duke said finally. Dennis has mentioned your competence. I am grateful for the work, Your Grace. She heard him move closer. Boots on frozen ground. 3 steps. 2. He stopped just within her field of vision. Look at me, Joseph. It was not a request. While Josephine lifted her eyes slowly, met his gaze, and something flickered there. Something she could not name. His eyes narrowed slightly, as though trying to solve a puzzle he had not realized existed. The moment stretched. Too long. Too still. Then the Duke stepped back. Return to your duties. Yes, Your Grace. He walked away without another word, stride measured and deliberate. Josephine watched him go, watched him mount a black stallion that Dennis held ready, watched him ride toward the northern fields. Only when he disappeared beyond the tree line did she allow herself to breathe. Dennis approached, voice quiet. His Grace does not usually speak to stable hands. I did not mean to draw his attention. I know, lad. Just be careful. The Duke notices more than he should. Josephine nodded, throat tight, and because she had felt it too, the weight of his gaze, the way he looked at her as though seeing something he should not. and for the first time since arriving at Hawthorne Estate, Josephine Foster felt afraid. Not of discovery, but of something far more dangerous. "Hey, quick question. How are you feeling right now? Thank you so much for being here. It really means the world to me. I'm working toward 1,000 subscribers, and if Josephine's dangerous secret is already pulling at your heart, please hit that subscribe button for Ariella Duke Romance Library. Smash the like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. All right, thank you. Now let's get back to what happens when the Duke, who never looked, finally did. Winter deepened its hold on Hawthorne Estate. Snow fell in thick curtains, to blanketing the grounds in silence. Josephine's hands cracked from the cold, despite the rough gloves she wore. Her fingers bled sometimes when she worked, but she bound them and said nothing. Survival meant endurance, and endurance meant silence. The Duke did not speak to her again, but Josephine began to notice his presence in ways she hadn't before. He rode every morning, regardless of weather. Always the black stallion, a beast called Erebus, that tolerated no one's hand but the Duke's. Sometimes Raymond Hawthorne rode to the northern woods, sometimes to the village, but he always passed through the stable yard, and every time his eyes found her. Not obviously, not with any outward acknowledgement, but Josephine felt the weight of his gaze like a touch against her skin. She would be mucking a stall or hauling feed, and she would look up to find him watching. Just for a moment. Just long enough to make her breath catch. Then he would ride past, and she would be left wondering if she had imagined it. "You are jumpy lately," Dennis observed one morning as they worked side by side, oiling tack. "Something troubling you, Joseph?" Josephine shook her head. "Just the cold. Makes everything harder. Aye, winter is cruel here, but we have it better than most. Warm beds, regular meals. His Grace treats his staff fairly, long as you do your work." Dennis paused, then added quietly, "He is a hard man, but not a cruel one. I have worked here 15 years, never seen him raise his voice or his hand. He expects perfection, but he rewards competence. Does he ever smile?" The question escaped before Josephine could stop it. Dennis's eyebrows rose. Oh, then he laughed, a rough sound. In 15 years? Maybe twice. Once at a horse auction when he outbid a man he despised. Once when his hound caught a fox that had been raiding the henhouse. Both times it was more a smirk than a smile. His Grace is not given to displays of emotion. Josephine absorbed this information silently. A man who never smiled, who moved through life with absolute control, who noticed everything but revealed nothing. A dangerous man to hide from. "Why does he not marry?" she asked, keeping her voice casual. "Surely he needs an heir." "Ah, lad, you are asking questions above your station." But Dennis's tone held no rebuke. His Grace was engaged once, years ago, to Lady Margaret Shepherd. Beautiful woman, from what I heard. But she broke the engagement 3 months before the wedding, or ran off with a cavalry officer. "Why?" Dennis shrugged. "Some say she could not bear his coldness. Others say he discovered her in a compromising position and released her from obligation. His Grace never speaks of it. And after that, well, he made it clear he had no interest in the institution of marriage." "What about Lady Evangeline Cross? I heard Edith mention her name." "Aye, the families have been negotiating an alliance. But nothing is settled. Lady Evangeline is ambitious. She wants to be a duchess. Whether His Grace wants a wife?" Dennis shook his head. "That is another matter entirely." They worked in companionable silence after that. But Josephine's mind turned over the information, like stones in a stream. A man who had been betrayed. A man who trusted no one. A man who now watched her with eyes that saw too much. 3 days later, Francis summoned Josephine to the steward's office. She stood in the doorway, cap in hand, heart hammering. Had someone discovered her secret? Had her uncle sent men looking for her? Francis looked up from his ledger. "Ah, Joseph. Come in, lad." She stepped inside, forcing her breathing to remain steady. "You have been doing good work in the stables," Francis said. "Dennis speaks highly of your competence with the horses." "Thank you, sir. His Grace requires an additional hand inside the manor, someone steady, discreet, and hard-working. I have recommended you." Josephine's stomach plummeted. "Inside the manor, sir?" "Yes. You would assist with various duties, tending fires, carrying water, running errands. Light work, but it requires someone trustworthy. His Grace is very particular about who moves through his private spaces." This was the last thing Josephine wanted. Invisibility had kept her safe. Being pulled closer to the Duke, closer to scrutiny, closer to the possibility of discovery. But refusing would draw suspicion. She swallowed hard. "I am honored, sir. When do I begin?" "Tomorrow morning. Report to the servants' entrance at 6. Mrs. Helena Osborne, the housekeeper, will instruct you further." Francis paused, studying her with those sharp eyes. "You are a quiet lad, Joseph. That is good. His Grace values silence and efficiency. Do your work, keep your head down, and you will do well." "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." Josephine left the office with her mind racing. Inside the manor, close to the Duke. This was dangerous, but she had no choice except to adapt and survive. Mrs. May Osborne was a formidable woman in her 50s, with iron-grey hair pulled into a severe bun and a gaze that could cut glass. She stood in the servants' hall the next morning, hands clasped at her waist, inspecting Josephine as though evaluating livestock. "You are Joseph?" "Yes, ma'am." "You will address me as Mrs. Osborne. I run this household with absolute precision. You will be punctual, clean, and silent. You will not linger in rooms where you do not belong. You will not touch items that are not within your duties to touch. And you will not, under any circumstances, disturb His Grace. Is that clear?" "Yes, Mrs. Osborne." "Good. Come." She led Josephine through the manor, and for the first time, Josephine saw the true scope of Hawthorne's wealth. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, paintings in gilded frames, furniture that belonged in palaces. Every surface gleamed, every corner held some object of beauty or value. "You will start each morning in the drawing room," Mrs. Osborne explained as they walked. "Light the fire, dust the surfaces, ensure fresh water in the vases. Then the library, then His Grace's study, though only when he is absent. When His Grace is working, you do not disturb him." They climbed a grand staircase, their footsteps muffled by thick carpet. The second floor held more opulence, guest chambers, a music room, a conservatory filled with winter-blooming plants. "You will occasionally be asked to attend His Grace directly," Mrs. Osborne continued, "carrying correspondence, fetching items he requires. When in his presence, you speak only when spoken to. You keep your eyes down. You do not presume familiarity. Well, the Duke is not your friend, Joseph. He is your employer and your better. Remember that." "Yes, Mrs. Osborne." They stopped before a heavy oak door. Mrs. Osborne's expression sharpened. "This is His Grace's private chamber. You will enter only to tend the fire, and only in the early morning, when he is elsewhere. You touch nothing except what is necessary for your duties. This room is sacred territory. Violate its sanctity, and you will be dismissed immediately. Understood?" Yes, Mrs. Osborne. She opened the door. The chamber was vast, but surprisingly austere. A large four-poster bed with dark curtains, a wardrobe of carved mahogany, a desk positioned before windows that overlooked the grounds, books on shelves, a fireplace with a marble mantel, but no personal items, no photographs, no trinkets or mementos, are just functional elegance and complete emotional silence. You will enter at 5:30 each morning, Mrs. Osborne said. Light the fire, ensure the room is warm before His Grace wakes. Then you will leave immediately. You will not linger. You will not explore. Is that clear? Yes, Mrs. Osborne. Then begin your duties. I expect perfection, Joseph. She left, her footsteps fading down the corridor. Josephine stood in the Duke's private chamber, heart pounding. She could smell the faint scent of him here. Something clean and masculine. Soap and leather and the smoky remnant of last night's fire. She moved quickly, gathering kindling from the brass box beside the fireplace, building the fire with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, flames crackled to life, casting golden light across the room. She straightened, brushing ash from her hands, and froze, because standing in the doorway, watching her with those cold grey eyes, was the Duke himself. He wore a dressing gown of dark silk over his nightshirt. His hair was slightly dishevelled from sleep, but his gaze was sharp, alert. Josephine's breath stopped. Your Grace, she managed, dropping into an awkward bow. I apologize. Mrs. Osborne said you would be elsewhere. Mrs. Osborne assumes I keep to a schedule, Raymond interrupted quietly. I do not always oblige. He stepped into the room, and Josephine instinctively stepped back. Her spine hit the fireplace mantel. Nowhere left to retreat. The Duke stopped 3 paces away, studied her with that unsettling intensity. You are the stable boy, Joseph. Yes, Your Grace. You have been reassigned inside the manor. Yes, Your Grace. Do you find the work satisfactory? I am grateful for any work, Your Grace. His eyes narrowed slightly. You speak very little. Most servants chatter constantly when given the opportunity. Josephine's throat tightened. I prefer silence, Your Grace. As do I. He moved closer. 1 step, then another. Josephine pressed harder against the mantel, hands gripping the cold marble behind her. The Duke stood close enough now that she could see the fine details of his face, the sharp line of his jaw, the pale scar that cut through his left eyebrow, the absolute absence of warmth in his expression. You are frightened of me, he observed. No, Your Grace. You are lying. She said nothing, because he was right. Raymond reached out slowly, deliberately, and adjusted the collar of her rough shirt, where it had twisted awkwardly. His fingers brushed the side of her neck, just for a moment, just long enough to make her skin burn. You are unlike the others, he said quietly. The other servants either grovel or gossip. You do neither. Why is that, Joseph? I have nothing to say that would interest Your Grace. On the contrary, I find your silence intriguing. He stepped back, releasing her from the weight of his proximity. Josephine sucked in a breath she had not realized she was holding. Complete your duties, the Duke said, turning toward the windows. And in the future, knock before entering, even if you believe the room to be empty. Yes, Your Grace. My apologies, Your Grace. She fled. Down the corridor, down the servants' stairs, not stopping until she reached the kitchen where Edith and Millie worked over steaming pots. Edith looked up, and her eyebrows raised. You look like you have seen a ghost, Joseph. You all right, lad? Josephine nodded, not trusting her voice. Because what she had seen was not a ghost. It was something far more dangerous. The Duke's curiosity. The days turned into a careful dance of proximity and avoidance. Every morning, Josephine entered the Duke's chamber at precisely 5:30. She learned his patterns. He rose at 6, dressed with mechanical precision, and descended to the dining room by 5:30. She could time her exits to avoid him, could slip through his space like smoke, leaving no trace except warm fires and perfectly arranged rooms. But the Duke began testing her. Small things at first. He would return to his chamber earlier than usual, catching her mid-task, would stand in the doorway and watch her work without speaking. His silence was heavy, expectant, as though waiting for her to crack under the pressure of his attention. She never did. She kept her eyes down, her movements efficient, her mouth shut, and his fascination seemed to deepen. "You have steady hands," he remarked one morning as she poured water into the basin on his washstand. "Thank you, Your Grace." "Where did you learn such precision?" "Practice, Your Grace." That is not an answer. Josephine set down the pitcher carefully. "I worked in many places before coming here, Your Grace. I learned what was required. And your family?" "Dead, Your Grace." "All of them?" "Yes, Your Grace." He absorbed this in silence. Then, softly, "You wear grief quietly." She did not respond. Could not, without revealing too much. The Duke moved closer. She could hear the whisper of fabric as he walked, the soft tread of his boots on carpet. He stopped beside her, so close that his sleeve brushed her shoulder. "Look at me, Joseph." She obeyed, tilting her face up slowly. Met his gaze. Those grey eyes studied her with clinical precision, searching for something. Some truth she could not allow him to find. "You have unusual eyes," he said. "Dark. Very dark. Almost black in certain light. Is that so, Your Grace?" "Yes." His hand lifted, and for one terrifying moment, Josephine thought he would touch her face. Instead, he reached past her and picked up a towel from the stand. "Return to your other duties." "Yes, Your Grace." She left quickly, pulse hammering. He was getting too close, noticing too much, and Josephine had nowhere to run. Lady Evangeline Cross arrived on a cold afternoon in February, descending from an ornate carriage in a gown of emerald silk that defied the winter chill. She was beautiful in the way of predators. Sharp features, calculating eyes, a smile that revealed nothing. The household buzzed with the news. The Duke's potential bride. The alliance that would unite two powerful families. The wedding that might finally soften Raymond Hawthorne's cold heart. Josephine watched from the servants' corridors as Evangeline swept through the manor, cataloguing everything with quick, assessing glances. This was a woman who knew her worth and expected the world to acknowledge it. "She is magnificent," Millie whispered, as they carried linens through the halls. "Can you imagine being married to the Duke? All this wealth, all this power." "She is welcome to it," Edith muttered. "I would not want to share a bed with that man if you paid me. Cold as winter he is." Josephine said nothing, but she felt something twist in her chest, something she had no right to feel, because the Duke was nothing to her, could be nothing to her. And yet, that evening, Josephine was tending the fire in the library when Evangeline entered. She wore a different gown now, pale blue silk that rustled with each step. Her perfume filled the room. Expensive, cloying. Josephine kept her head down, focused on the fire. "You there, boy?" She straightened slowly. "Yes, my lady." Evangeline studied her with eyes that missed nothing. "What is your name?" "Joseph, my lady." "How long have you worked here, Joseph?" 4 months, my lady." "And you work closely with His Grace?" "I tend his chambers and assist with household duties, my lady." Evangeline moved closer, circling Josephine like a cat examining a mouse. "You are quite young, and rather delicate for a stable boy." Josephine's stomach clenched. "I am strong enough for my work, my lady." "Are you?" Evangeline reached out and grasped Josephine's hand before she could pull away, turned it over, examining the palm. "Your hands are rough, but your fingers are long, almost elegant. How curious." She released Josephine's hand and stepped back, a small smile playing at her lips. "Tell me, Joseph, does His Grace treat you well?" "Yes, my lady, very well." "Does he speak to you often?" "Only when necessary, my lady." How fortunate for you, then, that he finds you necessary." There was something dangerous in her tone, something that made Josephine's skin prickle with warning. "Will that be all?" "Of my lady?" "For now." Evangeline settled into a chair, arranging her skirts with practiced grace. "You may go, Joseph, but I suspect we will speak again soon." Josephine fled the library, Evangeline's knowing smile burning in her memory. Dinner that night was a formal affair. Josephine was assigned to assist the footman, carrying dishes from the kitchen, pouring wine, removing plates between courses. She moved through the dining room like a ghost, eyes down, silent. But she could feel Evangeline watching her. The Duke sat at the head of the table, expression neutral, as Evangeline regaled him with stories of London society. She laughed, she smiled, she deployed every weapon in the arsenal of charm. Raymond Hawthorne remained unmoved. "You are very quiet tonight, Your Grace," Evangeline observed, her tone light but probing. "I am often quiet, Lady Evangeline." "True, but I had hoped my presence might inspire something more engaging. I am not given to idle conversation." "Clearly." She took a sip of wine, eyes glittering. "Tell me, do you find satisfaction in your current household arrangements?" "I find them adequate." "Only adequate. You have such wealth, such power. Surely you could surround yourself with more refined company." "I prefer competence to refinement." "How very practical of you." Evangeline's gaze slid to Josephine, who was refilling water glasses. "Your servants are certainly competent, especially that young boy. Joseph, was it? He seems quite devoted to his duties." The Duke's eyes flickered to Josephine, just for a moment, but she felt the weight of that glance like a brand. "Joseph performs his work satisfactorily," Raymond said. "What he is rather unusual, is he not? For a stable boy, there is something almost refined about him." "I do not analyze the breeding of servants, Lady Evangeline." "Of course not. How foolish of me." But her smile suggested she had made her point. The meal continued. Josephine completed her duties and escaped to the servants' hall, hands shaking as she untied her apron. Edith appeared at her elbow. "That Lady Evangeline has sharp eyes. I do not trust her." "Why do you say that?" "Because she looks at people like she is searching for their secrets, and God help you if she finds them." Edith squeezed Josephine's shoulder. "Be careful, Joseph. Stay out of her way if you can." Josephine nodded, throat tight. But staying out of Evangeline's way proved impossible, because the lady had decided Josephine was worth watching. 2 days later, while Josephine was in the Duke's study, dusting bookshelves, when Raymond entered unexpectedly. She turned, startled, and nearly dropped the cloth. "Your Grace, I did not realize you had returned." "Clearly." He moved to his desk, sorting through correspondence with quick, efficient movements. "Continue your work. I will not disturb you." She resumed dusting, acutely aware of his presence, the scratch of his pen, the rustle of paper, the sound of his breathing in the quiet room. Minutes passed. Then, "Joseph." She turned. "Yes, Your Grace." "Come here." Her heart stuttered, but she obeyed, crossing to stand before his desk. The Duke set down his pen, leaned back in his chair, studied her with that unsettling intensity. "Lady Evangeline has taken an interest in you." Josephine's mouth went dry. "I do not know why, Your Grace." "Do you not? She seems to believe you are unusual for a servant boy." "I am only what I appear to be, Your Grace." "And what is that, precisely?" "A boy who works, who is grateful for employment." He stood, and Josephine fought the urge to step back. The Duke circled the desk slowly, deliberately. "I find it curious. Lady Evangeline is rarely wrong in her assessments of character. She has a talent for detecting deception." Josephine forced herself to meet his eyes. "I have nothing to hide, Your Grace." "Have you not?" He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact, close enough that she could see the fine grain of his skin, the precise line where his collar met his throat. "You are trembling," he observed. "It is cold, Your Grace." "The fire is quite warm. Or try again." "Then I am nervous, Your Grace. Your presence is intimidating." "Good. You should be intimidated. I could destroy you with a word, Joseph. Send you back to whatever desperate circumstances brought you here. Do you understand that?" "Yes, Your Grace. And yet you look me in the eye. Most servants cannot. They cower. They scrape. But you—" He tilted his head slightly. "You meet my gaze as though you have every right to. I mean no disrespect, Your Grace." "I did not say it was disrespectful. I said it was unusual." His hand lifted, and Josephine's breath stopped, but he only adjusted her collar again. That same deliberate gesture, fingers brushing the side of her neck, warm against her cold skin. "You wear your clothes carelessly," he said, quietly, "as though you are uncomfortable in them." "They are all I have, or Your Grace." "Perhaps I should have the tailor make you something better suited." "That is not necessary, Your Grace." "I will decide what is necessary." His thumb traced the line of her collarbone through the fabric, a slow, deliberate touch that made heat pool in her stomach. "You have very fine bones, Joseph. Delicate." She could not breathe, could not move, could only stand there, trapped between his body and the desk, his hand at her throat, his eyes searching hers. "Your Grace," she whispered. "Please." "Please what?" I do not understand what you want from me." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition of a question he could not answer. He stepped back. The loss of his proximity felt like cold water. "Return to your duties," he said, voice carefully neutral. "And stay away from Lady Evangeline. But if she questions you again, inform me immediately." "Yes, Your Grace." Josephine fled the study, heart pounding so hard she thought it might shatter her ribs, because she had felt it. The heat in his touch, the hunger in his gaze, and the terrible, impossible truth: the Duke was beginning to want her, not as Joseph, but as something he could not yet name. The tension in Hawthorne estate grew thick as fog. Evangeline remained for a week, then 2, her presence filling the halls with expensive perfume and probing questions. She watched Josephine constantly. Small comments, pointed observations. A campaign of psychological warfare disguised as curiosity. "Your voice is quite soft, Joseph," she remarked one morning as Josephine carried tea to the drawing room. "Almost musical. Has anyone ever mentioned that?" "No, my lady." "How strange. Most boys your age have rough voices. Yours is refined." Josephine set down the tray with careful hands. "I speak little, my lady. Perhaps that is why." "Perhaps." Evangeline's smile was cold. "Or perhaps there is another reason entirely." She let the words hang in the air like a noose. And Josephine knew. Evangeline suspected. She might not know the full truth, but she smelled deception the way predators smell blood. That evening, as Josephine tended the fire in the library, Evangeline entered and closed the door behind her. The click of the latch sounded impossibly loud. "We should talk, Joseph. Privately." Josephine straightened slowly. "I have duties to complete, my lady." "They can wait." Evangeline moved closer, her silk gown whispering across the floor. "I have been watching you these past weeks, studying you, and I have come to a rather interesting conclusion. My lady, you are not what you claim to be." Josephine's heart stopped. "I am a servant, my lady. Nothing more. Liar." The word was soft, almost gentle. "You move wrong. Speak wrong. Hold yourself wrong. You have the hands of someone who has done hard labor, yes, but the bearing of someone born to better circumstances." Evangeline circled her slowly. "Tell me, Joseph, what are you running from?" "Nothing, my lady. Everyone is running from something. The question is what? Debt? Crime? Family?" Josephine kept her expression blank. "I am an orphan, my lady. I have no family." "So you claim, but orphans do not usually possess the vocabulary you employ, or the posture, or the subtle refinement that clings to you despite your best efforts to bury it." Evangeline stopped directly in front of her, eyes sharp. "Who are you, really?" "Joseph Whitehead, my lady. And if I were to investigate that name, would I find records of your existence? I do not know, my lady. I have never sought to verify my own existence." Evangeline laughed, a cold sound. "Clever. I see why His Grace finds you intriguing." "The Duke does not find me intriguing, my lady. He barely notices me." "Oh, Joseph, that is the most transparent lie yet." Evangeline leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "He watches you constantly. Did you think I had not noticed? The way his eyes follow you across a room, the way he manufactures excuses to be near you, the way he touches you. He does not. Yes, he does. I have seen it. Small touches, adjusting your collar, brushing your hand. He thinks he is being subtle, but I recognize desire when I see it." Evangeline's smile turned vicious. "And the most delicious part? He does not even understand why he wants you. Because he thinks you are a boy." The words hit like a slap. Josephine forced herself to remain calm. "You are mistaken, my lady." "Am I? Then prove it." Evangeline reached out suddenly, grasping Josephine's cap and pulling it free. Her hair tumbled loose, cut short, yes, but still too soft, too fine. Evangeline's eyes widened. Then she laughed, genuine surprise in the sound. "Oh, this is perfect, absolutely perfect." Josephine snatched her cap back, shoving her hair beneath it with trembling hands. "You are wrong. I am not wrong. You are a woman, disguised as a boy, living under the Duke's roof. What, and he has no idea." Evangeline's delight was palpable. "This is the most entertaining scandal I have encountered in years." "Please," Josephine whispered, "do not tell him. And why should I keep your secret? Because if you expose me, I will be ruined. Sent away. Or worse. Yes, you would be. And that is precisely why this information is valuable to me." Evangeline settled into a chair, arranging her skirts with satisfaction. "You see, Joseph, or whatever your real name is, I came here to secure a marriage alliance with the Duke. But Raymond Hawthorne is proving remarkably resistant to my charms. He looks at me with complete indifference. But you," she smiled, "you, he cannot stop watching, which means you are the key to understanding what moves him. I am nothing to him. You are everything to him, Or he simply does not know it yet. Evangeline leaned forward. Here is my proposition. You will help me win the Duke's affection. You will tell me his preferences, his habits, his private thoughts, and in exchange, I will not expose your secret. I do not know his private thoughts. Then you will find out. You have access to his chambers, his study, his conversations. You will report everything to me. And if you refuse, she shrugged delicately, I will tell Raymond Hawthorne exactly what you are. A liar, a deceiver, a woman who has been sleeping under his roof, playing him for a fool. How do you think he will react to that betrayal? Josephine's hands clenched into fists. You are cruel. I am practical, and you are cornered. Choose wisely, Joseph. She stood, smoothing her gown. I expect your first report tomorrow evening. We will meet here. Do not disappoint me. Evangeline swept from the library, leaving Josephine alone with the fire and her racing heart. She could not do what Evangeline asked, betraying the Duke's trust, spying on him, reporting his private moments to a woman who would use that information as a weapon. It was unconscionable. But if Evangeline exposed her, Josephine would lose everything, her safety, her refuge, perhaps her life if her uncle managed to track her down. She was trapped between two impossible choices. That night, she lay awake on her narrow cot, mind churning through possibilities. She could run, flee into the night as she had fled before. But winter still gripped the countryside. She had no money, no resources, nowhere to go. She could confess the truth to the Duke herself, throw herself on his mercy. But Raymond Hawthorne was not known for mercy. He valued order, control, and Josephine had violated both by living a lie under his roof. She could try to appease Evangeline, give her small, harmless details, buy time until the woman lost interest or returned to London. But Evangeline was not someone who lost interest easily. Dawn came without answers, and when Josephine entered the Duke's chamber to tend the fire, she found him already awake, standing at the window, staring out at the snow-covered grounds. He did not turn as she entered. Your Grace, I did not mean to disturb. You did not disturb me. I have been awake for hours. His voice was quiet, thoughtful. Tell me, Joseph, do you believe in honesty? The question struck like a blade. Yes, Your Grace. Truly? Even when honesty brings pain? Especially then, Your Grace. Lies only delay the inevitable. He turned to face her. His expression was unreadable. And yet people lie constantly, to protect themselves, to gain advantage, to hide what they fear others will judge. Yes, Your Grace. Are you lying to me, Joseph? Her breath caught. Your Grace. It is a simple question. Are you lying to me? She wanted to confess, wanted to tell him everything, but the words stuck in her throat. I have never deliberately deceived you, Your Grace. That is not the same as honesty. No, Your Grace, it is not. He studied her for a long moment. Then he crossed the room, stopping close enough that she could smell the faint scent of shaving soap on his skin. Lady Evangeline spoke to me last night, he said quietly. She suggested that you are not what you appear to be, that you hide secrets. Josephine's stomach dropped. What did you tell her, Your Grace? I told her that my servants' pasts are none of her concern, that if you wished to share your history, you would do so of your own accord. His hand lifted, and this time he did touch her face, fingertips against her jaw, tilting her face up. Was I wrong to defend you, Joseph? Tears burned behind her eyes. No, Your Grace. You were kind. I am never kind. I am practical. And it is practical to keep competent servants, regardless of what ghosts chase them. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, so gentle, so dangerous. But I will ask you once more. Are you lying to me?" She could feel her control cracking, could feel the truth clawing at her throat. "I am." She swallowed hard. "Well, I am not the person you believe me to be. No one ever is." He released her face, stepping back. "But I do not require perfect honesty from my servants, Joseph. Only perfect service. Can you provide that?" "Yes, Your Grace." "Then that is all I need to know, for now." He turned away, dismissing her, and Josephine fled, knowing that she had just been given a reprieve she did not deserve. That evening, she met Evangeline in the library, as commanded. "Well?" Evangeline demanded. "What have you learned?" "The Duke rises early. He prefers his coffee black. He reads before bed. I do not care about his breakfast habits, you foolish girl. I want to know what moves him, what makes him feel." "He does not feel, my lady, or if he does, he hides it well. Everyone feels. You simply need to find the crack in his armor." Evangeline paced the room, agitated. "Does he speak of his past? Of Lady Margaret Shepherd?" "No, my lady." "Does he mention marriage? Children? The future?" "No, my lady. Useless." Evangeline turned on her, eyes blazing. "I need something I can use, something that will make him see me as more than a political alliance." Josephine hesitated. Then, quietly, "He values honesty, my lady. He said so this morning." "Honesty? From the man who trusts no one?" "He does not trust easily, but he respects those who speak plainly, who do not manipulate or deceive." Evangeline absorbed this, a slow smile spreading across her face. "Then I shall be devastatingly honest with him. Vulnerable, real. Thank you, Joseph. That is exactly the insight I needed." She swept from the library, leaving Josephine with a sick feeling in her stomach. Because she had just given Evangeline a weapon, and weapons in the wrong hands always drew blood. The next week unfolded like a storm building on the horizon. Evangeline deployed her new strategy with surgical precision. She stopped flattering the Duke, stopped performing charm. Instead, she spoke to him with startling honesty about her ambitions, her fears, her desire for a partnership built on mutual respect rather than romantic delusion. And Raymond Hawthorne listened. Josephine watched from the shadows as Evangeline slowly, methodically, began to breach the Duke's defenses. She saw him engage with her in ways he hadn't before, saw conversations stretch longer, saw something that might have been respect flicker in his eyes. And it hurt. Josephine had no right to that pain, or no claim on the Duke's affections, but she felt it anyway, sharp and deep and impossible to ignore. Because somewhere in the past months, beneath the fear and the secrecy and the desperate need to survive, something else had taken root. She had begun to care for him, not the Duke, not the title, not the power, but the man beneath. The man who rose before dawn to ride alone through winter fields, who read philosophy by candlelight, who spoke rarely but listened intently, who carried loneliness like a second skin. She saw him in moments he thought himself unobserved, saw the exhaustion behind his perfect control, saw the way his hand trembled sometimes when he thought no one watched, saw the hunger for connection he would never admit. And God help her, she wanted to give him that. But she could not, because she was Joseph. And Joseph could offer nothing except lies. The turning point came on a night when spring storms battered the estate. Josephine was in the Duke's study, lighting candles as rain lashed the windows. Thunder rumbled like artillery. Lightning split the sky in jagged white scars. She had thought the Duke was at dinner with Evangeline, but the door opened, and he entered, soaked to the skin. "Your Grace!" Josephine rushed forward instinctively. "You are drenched! Let me fetch towels!" "Leave it." His voice was rough, strained. She stopped. "Your Grace?" He moved to the fireplace, hands braced against the mantel, head bowed. Water dripped from his hair, his clothes. His shoulders rose and fell with each breath. "Your Grace, you will catch cold. Please let me—" I said, "Leave it, Joseph." But she could not stand there and watch him suffer when she had the means to help. She grabbed towels from the washstand, approached him carefully. "At least dry your hair, Your Grace." He did not move, did not acknowledge her. So she reached up, hesitant, and began to dry his hair herself. Her hands trembled. This was too intimate, too dangerous, but she could not stop. Raymond Hawthorne stood absolutely still beneath her ministrations, like a wild thing, uncertain whether to flee or submit. "Why do you persist in caring for me when I have given you no kindness?" he asked quietly. "You have given me work, shelter, safety. That is more kindness than most would offer. I have given you orders. That is not kindness. Then perhaps I am simply foolish, Your Grace." A sound escaped him, not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. "Yes, or perhaps you are." She finished with his hair, moved to his shoulders, pressing the towel against wet fabric. She could feel the heat of him through the cloth, could feel the tension coiled in his muscles. "What happened, Your Grace?" she asked softly. Silence stretched. Then, "Lady Evangeline and I had a conversation." "I see. She offered me honesty, told me she wants marriage for practical reasons, power, position, security. No pretense of affection, no lies about love." "And what did you say, Your Grace?" "I told her I appreciated her candor, that I would consider her proposal." He turned suddenly, and Josephine found herself trapped between his body and the mantel. "Do you know what I thought about Joseph, while she outlined the strategic advantages of our union? No, Your Grace. You." The word fell between them like a stone in still water. "I thought about you, about your silence, your competence, the way you move through my spaces as though you belong there." His hand lifted, cupped her face. "Why do I think about you, Joseph? Why do I look for you in every room? Why does your absence bother me more than Evangeline's presence?" Josephine could not breathe, could not speak. "Answer me," he demanded, voice rough. "I do not know, Your Grace." "Neither do I, and it is driving me mad." His thumb traced her lower lip, slow, deliberate, and Josephine felt heat flood her body in response. This was wrong, impossible, dangerous. But she leaned into his touch anyway, because for 7 years she had been nothing, had been invisible, had been Joseph. And now, in this moment, Raymond Hawthorne saw her, not as she truly was, but as something worth noticing, worth wanting. "Your Grace," she whispered. "We should not." "I know." But he did not pull away. His other hand found her waist, fingers spreading across her hip. "I know what this is, what it makes me, and I do not care." "Please, please what, Joseph? Please stop, please continue. Tell me what you want." What she wanted was impossible. She wanted him to see her, truly see her, to know her name and her history and the truth of what she was. She wanted him to want her anyway, but that was a fantasy, a dream that would shatter the moment he learned the truth. "I want," she swallowed hard, "I want to remain in your service, Your Grace. Nothing more." "Liar," but his voice was soft, almost tender. "You are trembling again, and not from fear." "Your Grace." He kissed her, not gently, or not with hesitation, but with hunger. His mouth covered hers, and Josephine gasped against the onslaught of sensation. She had never been kissed, had never known a man's touch. And now Raymond Hawthorne was kissing her as though she was air and he was drowning. His hands tightened on her waist, pulling her closer. Her hands found his chest, felt his heart hammering beneath wet fabric. The kiss deepened, and she opened for him, tasting rain and desperation and something darker, something that felt like need. Thunder crashed overhead. Lightning illuminated them in stark relief. And then Raymond pulled back, breathing hard. They stared at each other in the flickering candlelight. "God forgive me," he whispered. "What am I doing?" "Your Grace. Leave, now. Before I do something we will both regret." "Your Grace, Go, Joseph!" She fled, ran through the corridors, down the servants' stairs, out into the rain. Let the storm soak her. Let it wash away the taste of him. Let it cool the heat that still burned beneath her skin. Because everything had just changed, and there was no going back. She avoided him for 3 days, found excuses to send other servants to his chambers, to have Dennis handle his horses, to disappear whenever he entered a room. But on the 4th day, Mrs. Osborne summoned her. "His Grace has requested you specifically, Joseph. He wants you to attend him in his private study. Now." Josephine's stomach clenched. "Yes, Mrs. Osborne." She climbed the stairs with leaden feet, knocked on the study door. "Enter." She stepped inside. Raymond Hawthorne sat behind his desk, expression unreadable. "Close the door, Joseph." She obeyed. "And come here." She crossed to stand before his desk, hands clasped behind her back to hide their shaking. The Duke studied her for a long moment. Then he stood, rounded the desk, and leaned against it, arms crossed. "You have been avoiding me." "I have been attending to my duties, Your Grace." "Do not lie to me." "Not after—" He trailed off, jaw tightening. "We need to discuss what happened." "There is nothing to discuss, Your Grace. You were upset." "The storm." "Do not make excuses for me. I kissed you. I wanted to do more. And you—" His eyes searched hers. "You did not pull away." "I was frightened, Your Grace." "No. You were many things. But frightened was not amongst them." He moved closer, and Josephine's breath caught. "Tell me truthfully, Joseph. Did you want me to stop?" She could not lie. "Not about this." "No." "What, Your Grace?" The admission hung between them. "Why?" he asked softly. "Why do you affect me this way? You are a boy, a servant. And yet when I am near you, I feel—" He shook his head. "I feel things I have no right to feel." "Perhaps you are lonely, Your Grace." "I have been lonely for years. That is not new. This is—" He reached out, fingers brushing her jaw. "This is something else entirely. Your Grace, if anyone knew, no one will know. This stays between us. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Grace." "Good." His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head back. "Because I am not done with you yet, Joseph. Not even close." He kissed her again. Slower this time, deeper. His mouth explored hers with thorough precision, learning her responses, coaxing sounds from her throat she had never made before. His hands mapped her body through her rough clothes, waist, ribs, the small of her back. And Josephine let him, knowing this was madness, knowing it would end in disaster, but unable to stop. Because for the first time in 7 years, she felt seen, even if he didn't know what he was truly seeing. The affair, if it could be called that, continued in stolen moments. A kiss in the study when no one else was near. His hands on her waist as she tended his fire, the weight of his gaze following her through corridors. And always, always, the tension building toward something neither of them could name. Evangeline watched it all with calculating eyes. "You are playing a dangerous game," she told Josephine one evening, cornering her in the servants' corridor. "The Duke is growing attached to his pretty stable boy. How long do you think you can maintain this charade?" "I am not maintaining anything, my lady." "Oh, please, I have seen the way he looks at you, the way you look at him. It is pathetic and fascinating in equal measure." Evangeline smiled coldly. "But do not worry. I will not expose you. Not yet. This is far too entertaining. Why are you doing this?" "Because I can. Because watching Raymond Hawthorne tie himself in knots over someone he can never truly have is the most interesting thing to happen at this estate in years." She leaned closer. "Besides, the longer this continues, the more ammunition I gather. When I finally do reveal your secret, the scandal will be exquisite." She walked away, leaving Josephine with ice in her veins. Because Evangeline was right. This could not continue. Eventually, the truth would surface. No, and when it did, the fallout would destroy everyone involved. The breaking point came on a night in late March. Josephine entered the Duke's chamber to find him standing by the window, shoulders rigid with tension. "Your Grace? Is something wrong?" "Close the door." She obeyed, wariness prickling down her spine. He turned to face her. His expression was strange, controlled, but something dangerous flickered beneath. "Take off your cap." "Your Grace, take it off." With trembling hands, she removed her cap. Her short hair fell across her forehead. Raymond crossed to her with measured steps. Stopped close. Too close. "Lady Evangeline came to me today," he said quietly. "She made certain allegations about you." Josephine's heart stopped. "What kind of allegations, Your Grace?" "That you are not what you claim to be. That you are hiding something fundamental. Something that would explain." He gestured between them. "This. I told you, Your Grace. I am only Joseph Whitehead." "Yes, you have said." But Evangeline suggested I look more closely. And so I did. His hand lifted to her face, fingers tracing the line of her jaw with clinical precision. "Your skin is too soft. Your features too delicate. Your voice, when you forget to roughen it, too musical." His thumb pressed against her pulse point. "Your heartbeat races when I touch you, not from fear, from something else. Your Grace, please, look at me." She met his eyes, saw the terrible intelligence there, the pieces falling into place. "Who are you?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. She could lie, could maintain the fiction, could cling to Joseph until the very end. But standing there, and with his hand against her throat, and his eyes seeing too much, Josephine made a choice. She chose honesty. "My name is Josephine Foster," she said quietly. "I am not a boy. I am a woman. And I have been hiding in your household for 7 months." The silence that followed was absolute. Raymond's hand fell away. He stepped back, expression cycling through shock, disbelief, anger. "A woman," he repeated. "Yes, Your Grace." "You have been, all this time." "Yes, Your Grace." He turned away sharply, hands clenching into fists. "How dare you? How dare you come into my home under false pretenses, and—" He spun back. "Did you laugh at me? Every time I touched you, every time I kissed you, thinking you were—" "No!" The word burst from her. "I never laughed. I never mocked you. I was terrified every moment that you would discover the truth and what? Send you away. Have you arrested? You lied to me, Josephine Foster. You deceived me for months. You let me believe—" His voice cracked. "You let me think I was losing my mind. that I was developing unnatural desires for a boy in my employ. Tears burned in her eyes. "I am sorry, Your Grace. I had no choice. I was desperate. My uncle was forcing me into a marriage I could not bear, and I—" "You ran, and hid, and made a fool of me in my own house. That was never my intention. I do not care about your intentions. I care about your actions, and your actions have been nothing but deception." He moved to his desk, braced his hands against it. "Get out. Your Grace, get out!" She fled. She did not sleep that night. Could not. She lay on her cot, waiting for the inevitable, waiting to be dragged from her bed and thrown into the street, waiting for her uncle to be summoned, waiting for the life she had built to crumble. But morning came, and nothing happened. No one came to dismiss her. No one came to drag her away. She rose, washed, dressed, and went to the Duke's chamber, as she had every morning for months. The fire was cold, the room empty. She lit the fire with shaking hands, tended to the room, and left. The day passed in tense silence. She completed her duties mechanically, expecting at any moment to be summoned to face consequences. But the summons never came, and when she saw the Duke across the courtyard that afternoon, he looked through her as though she did not exist, as though Josephine Foster had disappeared as completely as she had the night she fled her uncle's house. 3 days of silence. 3 days of Raymond Hawthorne treating Josephine like empty air. She remained at the estate only because he had not formally dismissed her. But the weight of his absence was crushing. She had grown accustomed to his attention, his proximity, his dangerous fascination. Now she had nothing, and it hurt more than she could have imagined. On the 4th day, Evangeline sought her out in the stables. "He knows," the lady said without preamble. "I can see it in his eyes. The way he avoids you. The way his jaw tightens when someone mentions your name." She smiled. "Tell me, how did he react when you confessed?" "He asked me to leave." "And yet you are still here. Oh, how curious. He has not formally dismissed me. Because Raymond Hawthorne does not know what to do with you. You have broken his carefully ordered world, made him question everything he thought he knew about himself." Evangeline's smile widened. "It is delicious. Why do you take such pleasure in this?" "Because men like the Duke think they are above the messiness of human emotion. They think their control makes them invulnerable. But you, Josephine Foster, have proven him wrong. You made him want, made him feel. And now he does not know how to reconcile that with his precious sense of order. What do you want from me?" "Nothing. Not any more. The entertainment value of this situation far exceeds anything you could provide through spying." Evangeline turned to leave, then paused. "A word of advice, though. If you want to survive this, stop hiding, stop being Joseph, be Josephine, completely, and force him to see you as you truly are." She left, and Josephine stood in the dim stable, her words echoing. Stop hiding, be Josephine. But she did not know how, had not been Josephine in so long that the woman felt like a stranger. That night, she made a decision. She bathed properly. For the first time in months, she let herself be clean without the grime of work obscuring her. She found a dress in the servants' quarters. Nothing fine. Just a simple grey frock that had belonged to a maid who left years ago. She unbound her chest. Let her body take its natural shape. She combed her hair. It was still short, but it curled softly around her face when clean. And when she looked in the small mirror above the wash basin, she saw a woman staring back. Not a lady. Not any more. But not Joseph either. Just Josephine. She waited until late, until the household slept. Then she climbed the stairs to the Duke's private chambers, knocked softly. "Enter." She opened the door. Raymond Hawthorne stood by the fireplace, glass of whiskey in hand. He looked up at the sound of the door and froze. Because standing in his doorway was not Joseph, but a woman in a simple dress with short, dark hair and eyes that held a lifetime of secrets. "What are you doing here?" His voice was carefully neutral. "I came to show you the truth, Your Grace. All of it. I already know the truth. You are a liar who deceived me. Yes, I am, but I'm also more than that. And you deserve to see who you were really drawn to." She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. "You said you could not understand why you wanted Joseph, why you looked for me in every room, why my absence bothered you. It was because some part of you knew, recognized something in me that did not fit the disguise. Your instincts were not wrong, Your Grace. They were simply seeing what I tried to hide." He set down his glass with careful precision. "You presume too much. Perhaps. But I have already lost everything. I have nothing left to lose by being honest. What do you want from me, Josephine Foster?" "Nothing. I want nothing from you. I simply wanted you to see me. Truly see me. Before I leave." "Leave? I have not dismissed you. Not formally. But you made your feelings clear. You cannot bear the sight of me, and I cannot continue to live as a ghost in your household." Silence stretched between them. Then Raymond moved, 3 long strides, and he stood before her. "You think I cannot bear the sight of you?" His voice was low, dangerous. "You think my anger stems from disgust? Does it not? No, you foolish woman. I am furious because I kissed you, touched you, wanted you, and the entire time I was terrified there was something wrong with me, that I was developing perversions that would destroy me." His hand shot out, gripping her chin. "Do you understand what you put me through? The self-loathing? The confusion? I am sorry. I do not want your apologies. I want—" He stopped, jaw clenched. "I do not know what I want." "Then let me go, Your Grace. Release me from your service. Let me disappear." "No." The word was absolute. "Your Grace." "You think I will simply let you walk away? After months of driving me to distraction? After making me question everything I thought I knew about myself?" His grip tightened. "You belong to me now, Josephine Foster. Whether as Joseph or Josephine, you are mine. You cannot own a person. I can. I do, and I will not release you." He pulled her closer, until their faces were inches apart. "You deceived me, lied to me, made a fool of me, and I should hate you for it. But you do not. No. God help me, I do not." His mouth crashed against hers. The kiss was furious, punishing, but beneath the anger, Josephine tasted something else. Want, need, recognition. She kissed him back with 7 years of suppressed desire, 7 years of being invisible, 7 years of denying her own existence. All of it poured into that kiss. Raymond's hands found her waist, yanked her against him, and this time, there was no binding to hide her curves, no rough fabric to obscure her shape, just the simple dress and the truth of her body beneath. He pulled back, breathing hard, stared at her as though seeing her for the first time. "You are beautiful," he said roughly, "even with your hair shorn and your hands rough from labor. You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Your Grace, Raymond, when we are alone, you will call me Raymond." "Raymond," she whispered. He kissed her again. Softer this time, deeper. His hands explored her body with reverence, learning every curve, every difference from the boy he thought he knew. "I should not want you," he murmured against her mouth. "You are everything I should despise. A liar, a fraud, a woman who made me doubt my own sanity. I know, and yet I cannot let you go." "Then do not." He carried her to his bed, laid her down gently, followed her down, covering her body with his. "If we do this," he said quietly, "there is no going back. You understand that?" "Yes. I will not marry you. I cannot. The scandal would destroy us both. I do not ask for marriage. What do you ask for? Only this. One night where I am not hiding, where I am simply Josephine, and you are simply Raymond, and we can be honest with each other." He studied her face for a long moment. Then he kissed her forehead, her eyelids, her cheeks. "One night," he agreed. And that night, Josephine Foster stopped being invisible. Morning came too soon. Josephine woke in Raymond's bed, his arm heavy across her waist. For one perfect moment, she allowed herself to simply exist in that space, to feel wanted, seen. Then reality crashed back. She was still Josephine Foster, still a woman with a past that would catch up to her eventually, and Raymond was still the Duke, still a man whose position required discretion and propriety. She slipped from the bed carefully, trying not to wake him. "Where are you going?" She turned. Raymond was awake, watching her with those grey eyes. "I should return to my quarters before the household wakes." "No." "Raymond." "I said no. You will stay here. We will figure this out together." "There is nothing to figure out. Last night was everything. But it cannot continue. You know that." He sat up, sheets pooling at his waist. "Why not?" "Because you are a duke, and I am a fugitive hiding from an arranged marriage. That's because if my uncle finds me, I will be dragged back and forced to marry a man old enough to be my grandfather. Because society would crucify us both if this became known. Then we will be careful." "Raymond!" A knock at the door interrupted them. "Your Grace?" It was Francis's voice. "I apologize for the intrusion, but there is a man at the gate demanding entrance. He claims to be the uncle of a missing girl, a Josephine Foster." The blood drained from Josephine's face. Raymond's expression hardened. He rose, pulled on his dressing gown with swift efficiency. "Tell him I will receive him in the drawing-room in 20 minutes. "Yes, Your Grace." Footsteps faded down the corridor. Raymond turned to Josephine. "Get dressed. We end this now." 20 minutes later, Josephine stood in the drawing-room, wearing the grey dress. The hands clasped before her. Raymond stood beside her, fully dressed, expression carved from ice. The door opened. Arthur Foster entered, a well-fed man in his 50s with cruel eyes and an entitled sneer. He stopped when he saw Josephine. "There you are, you ungrateful wretch. Do you have any idea the trouble you have caused? The embarrassment?" "Uncle Arthur," Josephine said quietly. "Do not Uncle Arthur me. You will pack your things immediately. We are leaving. Your betrothed has been very patient, but his patience has limits. She is not going anywhere." Arthur's gaze snapped to Raymond. "I beg your pardon, Your Grace, but this is a family matter. My niece ran away to avoid her responsibilities. I have every right to—" "You have no rights here. This is my estate, and Josephine Foster is under my protection." "Your protection?" Arthur laughed. "Your Grace, do you even know what she has been doing here? How she has been living? I know everything I need to know. Then you know she has been masquerading as a boy, living in your stables, deceiving you and your entire household." Arthur's smile was vicious. What will society say when they learn the Duke of Hawthorne harbored a runaway girl disguised as a stable boy? The scandal would be extraordinary. Raymond's expression did not change. Is that a threat? Merely an observation, Your Grace. But if my niece returns with me willingly, no one need ever know the details of her adventure. And if she does not return willingly, then I will have no choice but to inform certain members of society about the irregularities in your household. Or for Josephine's own safety, you understand. Josephine's stomach twisted. Uncle, please. Silence, girl. You have said quite enough. Now come, we are leaving. He reached for her arm. Raymond moved. One moment, Arthur was reaching for Josephine. The next, Raymond's hand was locked around Arthur's wrist, grip crushing. You will not touch her. The words fell into absolute silence. Arthur tried to pull free. Failed. Your Grace, release me at once. I will release you when you understand the situation. Josephine Foster is under my protection. She will remain under my protection. And if you attempt to take her from this estate, I will destroy you. You cannot, I can. I have connections you cannot imagine, resources you cannot match. I can make you disappear, Arthur Foster. Not physically, but socially, financially. I can ensure you never receive another loan, another invitation, another scrap of respect from anyone who matters. Do you understand me? Arthur's face paled. The engagement contract is binding. She is legally... The engagement contract was signed by a man who had no legal authority over her. Josephine Foster is of age. She has the right to refuse any marriage she chooses, and she chooses to refuse yours. This is outrageous. This is reality. You have two options. You can leave this estate peacefully, never to contact Josephine again. Or you can fight me. And I promise you, Arthur Foster, you will lose. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Arthur jerked his arm free, stumbled back. You will regret this, Hawthorne. Both of you. The only thing I regret is allowing you into my home. Francis will see you out. Arthur left, his threats fading with his footsteps. And then there was only silence. Josephine turned to Raymond. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. This is far from over. What do you mean? I mean that your uncle was right about one thing. There will be scandal. Society will learn that I harbored a woman disguised as a boy in my household. They will speculate. They will gossip. They will demand answers. I will leave, disappear again. You can say I deceived you, that you had no idea. No! Raymond, I said no. We are past the point of you running, Josephine. If there is to be scandal, we face it together. But your reputation is built on control and coldness. Perhaps it is time for that to change. He cupped her face gently. I cannot offer you marriage. Not yet. The timing would be too suspicious. But I can offer you safety. A place here, and openly, as my companion. Your mistress, you mean? If you wish to use that word, or we can call it something else. A partnership, an arrangement. I do not care about the label. I care about you staying. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Why? Why would you risk everything for me? Because you make me feel human again. Because in 7 months, you did what no one else has done in years. You made me want to be more than a title, more than a cold shadow, moving through a cold house. He kissed her forehead. I do not love you, Josephine. I do not know if I am capable of love, but I want you, and I choose to keep you, if you will allow it. She kissed him, poured everything she couldn't say into that kiss. When they parted, she whispered, I will stay. Good. Hawthorne estate transformed with the seasons. More summer brought warmth and light to the grey stone walls. Gardens bloomed. Windows stood open to bird song and gentle breezes. And Josephine Foster, no longer hiding, walked through it all as herself. She wore dresses now, simple ones, befitting her ambiguous position in the household. Not quite servant, not quite lady. Something in between that society whispered about, but could not quite define. The scandal had come, as Raymond predicted. Rumours spread through drawing rooms and gentlemen's clubs. The Duke of Hawthorne and his mysterious companion, the woman who lived at his estate, unchaperoned and unashamed. Some called her his mistress, others, more charitably, called her his ward. Raymond called her Josephine, and that was enough. Lady Evangeline had returned to London, thwarted but strangely satisfied. "But you won," she told Josephine before leaving. "Not the way I expected. But you won nonetheless. Enjoy your victory." Dennis still worked in the stables, still called her Joseph sometimes, out of habit, then caught himself with a grin. Edith brought her tea in the mornings and gossip in the afternoons, delighted to have a confidant who understood the complicated dynamics of the household. And Raymond remained the Duke in public, cold, controlled, untouchable. But in private, he was something else, entirely. He was the man who read to her by firelight, who taught her to play chess and laughed when she beat him, who kissed her until she forgot her own name and then held her through the night. They did not speak of love. Perhaps they never would. But they had something rarer. They had honesty, partnership, a shared understanding of what it meant to be alone and then to choose not to be. One evening, as they sat together in his study, Josephine asked the question that had haunted her for months. "Do you regret it? Taking me in? Protecting me? All the scandal that followed?" Raymond set down his book, considered her with those grey eyes. "No," he said simply. "I regret many things in my life, Josephine Foster. But you are not one of them." He pulled her into his lap, kissed her with the thoroughness of a man who had all the time in the world, and Josephine, who had spent 7 years as someone else, finally allowed herself to simply be. Not Joseph, not a disguise, not a lie, just Josephine. Seen, known, chosen, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she was not running. She was home, and that's where we leave Josephine and Raymond, no longer hiding, no longer alone. If this story moved you, please show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing to Ariella Duke Romance Library for more passionate Victorian romances. And I'd love to know, rate this story from 1 to 10 in the comments below. What did you think of Josephine's journey, of the Duke's transformation? Your feedback means everything. Thank you for being here. Until the next story, stay romantic.